Good practice today, good start of the week. A little cold out there. We had some nice weather to start, then it got really rainy and windy, and then today was pretty cold, but I thought our guys did a really good job, and excited to get down there to some nicer weather and get a chance to compete once again. These guys are locked in, love where they're at focus-wise, love where they're at as far as starting to get the in-depth level of knowledge within this game plan. So really exciting, and glad we get to represent our team one more time.
Like you said, it's obviously a little cold up here, and you guys are going to be playing in some warmer weather. How do you go about preparing your players for that change in temperature?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot we can do. We don't have really an indoor structure where we could turn the heat up and get in there. So we're kind of stuck with just, going through it like we're going through it now. And then when we get down there, we just got to be able to acclimate right away. Saturday do a little bit, Sunday do a little more, push it a little bit harder on Monday, and then pull it back down for Tuesday as we roll into that game. So we just got to get back out there, move around. Hydration is going to be key, making sure that our hydration, nutrition, rest, all those things got to be at the top of the pyramid right now as far as getting ourselves in the peak position we could be in physically walking into that game.
How have you seen Billy and JC look at practice this week, kind of preparing as the 1 and 2 guy?
I thought they did a really good job. Billy, as you've seen Billy in the backup role for a lot of the year up to this point, and he's done such a good job. And he's, again, inquisitive about it. He understands the depth of it. He knows where he needs to go with the football, and he's been able to deliver. Yesterday was cold, not really cold, but it was rainy and windy, and it didn't even look like it was rainy out there with the ball coming off his hand. So, he just continues to gain more and more confidence as he gets more and more reps, and I think he'll do a really good job on Saturday.
Talk about practice a little bit. Is it different what you're doing now than what it was during the regular season? Are you structuring things any different?
Yeah, you got to pull it back a little bit. We don't have as many compete periods. We don't have as much crossover. We do have a pass game and one team crossover, but we don't have the other two. We don't do a ton at the end of practice. We had a little 2-minute thing here at the end situationally, but it's just been a little bit less, which is what you ultimately have to do. But you have to also be able to prepare for a game, and you came off of a rest week where you didn't have a game on the weekend. So that lull, you got to be able to pick back up, and I'm really proud of the way our guys did that.
We talked about it the other day, but now you've actually been into practice. Guys know who they're playing. They've seen the tape, everything like that. Is there a different excitement, a different energy with the team now?
I think it's really just back to business. Now that was the last day with pads on, in Bridgeforth for, some of the guys on the team. So that probably strikes a little bit of a different emotional, chord when it's all said and done. But ultimately they, I see Tanner and I see Cole and see those guys out there, and, there's probably a little emotion that comes with that. But ultimately it's just another work week, a little less volume on them, but it's just another work week, and they've been great with it.
Western Kentucky, obviously, it's been reported they've got a lot of guys in the transfer portal, but those guys in the past, guys at that place have played in the bowl game. How do you go about preparing? Do you just prepare for what you watch on film, not worry about the players?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you assume that everybody's playing. I think to assume anything less would be ridiculous. I think they have a lot in there, and that's what they do as a program. But ultimately, we're preparing for what we saw on film. We're preparing for the problems and the matchup issues and all of those things, and we'll figure it out after the first drive or so, who's really out there playing.
Take a little deeper dive into what you've seen now on film with Western Kentucky on both sides of the football. Kind of what stands out when you see them?
Yeah, in what capacity? Just overall?
Overall, just on offense and defense. Just what kind of stands out? What's made them so good this year?
Yeah, well, I think that their pass game is really good. They open it up quite a bit. This quarterback's a big kid, and he stands in there and just has the height advantage to be able to see the whole field as people are blitzing at him. You see him take some in the body, but his eyes are still clear downfield, and he can flick the ball. He can, chuck it around really easily. There's weapons out there in the receiver position. There are guys that can get open. They do a really good job of understanding coverages when it's man, when it's zone, and I think they're really good in the pass game when they open it up. If you play the open sets, they're going to eventually bring this tight end in, and then they're going to be able to run the ball because they're not missing anything in there. And then they'll run the quarterback in there. And then they'll get involved in a lot of the other stuff with all the screen game and the things they do in there. And then they have all the and goes off of it and the quarterback run. There's just a lot that you have to defend, defensively against these guys. So I think that's important. The game they played in the championship game was a cold day. It wasn't their best, but before that they were clicking in just about every single game. So I think that's important to keep in perspective. When you get over to the defensive side, there's nothing they don't do. They're in 3 down, they're in 4 down, they get into a 5 down at times. They're going 0 man out there, just playing straight man and blitzing everybody to try to stop the run or try to get aggressive with the quarterback. And then they'll make it look like that and they'll drop themselves back out. There's really nothing they don't do on defense. They run every single defense that you've seen anybody run. It's all into one. So there's got to be a ton of communication of, who we're pointing and how we're running our run schemes, how we're handling our pass schemes. There's nothing in there that you just say, okay, that is what they do in any down. Usually, first and second down feels the same. Then you get the third down, it gets exotic. They're exotic on first down, second down, third down, red zone, backed up all the way through. They have a lot of defense. And then you get to their special teams. I think they do a really good job in all phases of special teams as well. I'd assume there'd be some, pressure on the punt team for us. I think that they do a good job punting as well. And then, they've lacked a little bit in their kickoff game. And that's where you've seen them not be able to get the ball to the back of the end zone. So I imagine, they take a shot at it. If they get it back there, great. If they don't, I can imagine, and we do something with that ball, I imagine the next one becomes a sky, a squib, and then they have a bunch of onside bunts that they've done where the kicker just kicks it to himself almost if there's a gap or someone leaves early. So there's really nothing that they were in their championship game, and they did not play their typical style of play. If they do, they probably win that game like they did the week before. So, this is a really, very, very good opponent that doesn't have a whole lot of weaknesses.
Now that it's less than a week until game day, is there just kind of that excitement and anticipation and maybe, I don't know if anxiousness is the right word, but is it starting to feel a little bit real in the locker room with the guys?
I think they're still good. We talked about it today, and we said you already logged 2 days that you want to normally get, and then you're going to head into, the rest of this week. And today, what even is today? Today's Thursday, so then we still have Friday, and then we get back on that plane on Saturday. We land and we hit a couple practices and we're ready to go. I think that will all start happening when we're done with our lift on Saturday morning and we head over to the airport. I'm sure they're going to start getting excited when we get off that plane and the weather's nice. I think everybody's going to be excited, and we just got to make sure that we keep that as even keel as we can, working through that week. But we're also there to do, some things in community service. We're also there to represent our team in the community. We're also there to do more than just play a football game, and I think it's important that we keep that in perspective too.
How do you keep that in perspective? Because you want it to be an enjoyable experience for the guys, but also there is business to take care of too.
Yeah. Well, when it's time to take care of business, you do that. And then when it's time to go, do the other things that come with a bowl game, you enjoy those too. There's nothing, you can do both. You don't have to pick one or the other. When we're meeting, we got to meet and focus on that. When we're practicing, we got to practice and keep that, exactly, locked in the way we should. And then when we get a chance to get out in the community or get to the beach or go do whatever, then we have time to enjoy that just the same way we would our practice and our meetings. So to me, it's not you don't have to choose one or the other. I think it's and both. And you can do both.
I don't know if you realize, but today's actually the 1-year anniversary of your introductory presser right over here inside when you were introduced.
Is that where I met you the first day I met you?
It was.
On the screen, right to the left, we stood there. I do remember. You stood on the right. I was on I remember exactly where it was. Yep, I do.
How would you kind of sum up the last 365?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that went into it. It's just such an ever-changing world. When I've had the privilege of taking over a few other programs. This one was very different. The way the transfer portal hits, the way NIL shows up, the way all those different things that happen were just very different. And I think to be able to get that together along with the staff, along with installing an offensive defense, special teams, strength and conditioning, along with, improving our nutrition, along with working on our mentorship program so our guys have opportunities after their football playing days are done, as well as trying to fundraise and get on the road and meet all the alums, as well as trying to learn the team, build more programs and positions within this staff to get this to become a modern day football program. There's a lot that went into this, and that was before the football started, right? And then you head into football, and obviously we have a really strong start, do a really good job throughout the year, and at the end, not the way we wanted to end those last two, but we have another chance to make that right. But I just think the amount of work that went into it, the amount of trust that the guys that were on this roster, gave to us was very impressive. It's not the easiest thing to do, but then the ability for us to stay consistent, and that's how you build trust, right? Time spent together, being consistent with that time, and then there has to be results. And I think those three things we did a really, really good job of. And I'm really proud of the way the coaches came together, the players came together, the community came together, and we're ultimately sharing this journey through football, but we're ultimately want to affect each other's lives, and I want to help these, young men become men and eventually husbands and fathers and employees and eventually employers and the things that come with the responsibility of that. But we share the journey through football, and the cool thing is those ups and downs, emotional ups and downs that we'll all go through, the negatives and the positives are just adding to the journey of growing and maturing as human beings, period. So I think that, when you think about the human element, there's a lot that was accomplished, throughout this year. And there's a lot of people that wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet or cross paths with. So that is ultimately why I do this, is to help, again, young men become men. And I think most of our coaches probably do that as well. And when you do it right off the field, chances are it sometimes works out, really, really well on the field as well. So I'm proud of the way everybody's gone about the year, and I'm excited to get a chance to, put a trophy in a trophy case at the end of it.
In terms of this preparation, how much has it helped having some guys like JT who went through this process last year and know kind of what a bowl game is going to look like?
Yeah, it's really good. Because I think that the balance, when you got to the hotel down there is a lot of downtime. There's opportunities, to go out, and there's opportunities to spend time with each other. We're not going to constantly have every minute of every day accounted for. They're going to have a little bit of free time. Their families will be there. I think that's really important, that we have great leadership, and that, JT and some others that were here can talk about that experience, and also just keep an eye on guys, because I'm sure the first time they went there probably saw a thing or two not go exactly as planned, and making sure that they are leaders in that environment when the coaches aren't around is really important.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with having a Billy out there expected to be a starter, how's the running back room kind of looking like? How are they kind of like preparing for this game as well?
You love the run game, huh? That's your favorite. That's your favorite. I love it. I love it. Every week you talk about the running back and ours. I think they're doing a really good job. I think George is going to continue to do what he does, and Joby, continues to get more carries in there. Wayne's doing an unbelievable job in there. You just keep going through the list. It just keeps. Everybody is going to have a piece of this thing as we go about it. I think they've done a really good job. The O-line, understands what it is. The statistics that this team has allowed in the run game over the past couple of weeks. We have to be able to produce in that element, but we can't just put all of our eggs in that basket. We also got to make sure that we're able to loosen things back up again by being able to win some one-on-ones downfield, and I think Billy's done a great job of it.
In terms of the Holy Cross guys that you brought with you, how have you talked to them at all just about playing the bowl game, coming together for us last season? Now you get to play in like a bowl game all ended.
Yeah, it's really. I have not, to be honest with you, I haven't. But it's pretty. It's again just another shared experience that we get on this journey together, and I'm really excited to get a chance to spend it with all of our guys, and those guys that have been together with a little bit longer. I'm sure there's and that'll be our last game together. There's probably some emotion involved in that, but right now it's just about focusing and preparing ourselves for this game.
And lastly, you talked about a little bit, but just the nature of the loss that Western Kentucky took in that conference championship game. Do you think that they're gonna be looking to just kind of build off of that, just like the nature of the loss, it being a blowout?
Yeah, I can't really speak to their their psychology at that moment, and what their feelings are necessarily. But I imagine, they know they're a good football team. They know that wasn't their best game to close out the year. I'm sure that they're going to be excited to get back out on the field and go again. But so are we, right? So I think those are the things that you're gonna have two really good teams getting a chance to go down there and battle, in a really neat environment that we haven't been in yet, or before. I think they at some point played in this game. Is that accurate? They played in the Boca Bowl at one point before. Probably these guys weren't on the team at that moment. Yeah, so it'll be new to them, just like it'll be new to us. But you got two good teams that are going down there and getting a chance to compete at a really high level in a great atmosphere. So really excited for it.
I know he's sitting back there now, but Eric picked up an All-American selection today. How have you seen him kind of grow throughout this season?
I've seen him do a great job, and I think that, as he came in here, I think a lot of people were talking to him early about playing in the 3 technique position and putting on a bunch of weight and being an interior lineman, and we believed in him as being an edge guy that can rush the passer and do those things. And then I think as, he continued to develop his game, I thought, coaching-wise, Coach Hemp did such a good job of putting him in situations where he was isolated one-on-one and had opportunities against what we might have perceived to be a weaker, offensive tackle, or so to speak. But then he starts to see some running backs showing up and chipping him and some other things happening. So it was such a neat evolution to watch the whole thing go. It didn't just start. There was a whole progression that led to him being where he is today. But ultimately, at the root of it all is his motor and just how hard he plays, and he doesn't quit. He doesn't give up on plays. And there's been sacks where someone's missed that become his because he's pursuing as hard as he can and not giving up on plays. And he's having fun doing it, right? It's fun to watch him, but his progression, not only personally, as far as his skill set is concerned, technique, but then also just schematically, the things we've been able to do and put him in positions to have some success as well. It's a perfect, I think, blend of coaching along with schematics, along with technique, along with just overall growth. So it doesn't just happen with one guy. He didn't just do it by himself. It didn't just happen because the scheme was good. It's the perfect marriage of all of it coming together that allows it to have so much success like it has.
Coach, I'm sure last year helped just being around, but it was a much different role than what you're in now. Have you talked to other coaches about kind of preparing your team for a bowl game? Because obviously you were used to the playoffs at every stop that you had been. Did you talk to some people about how to prepare your team for a bowl game?
Yeah, we talked to a lot of guys, and that's ultimately where our schedule came from. Those bunch of days, not days off, but there was 2 in a row days off over that weekend, and then come back and ease into it. And ultimately understanding that this is a bonus. Like, this has to be a bonus. We can't try to, extract spring ball from this as quick as we can and put 15 practices and try to hammer these guys as quick as. That's not what this is. And it's not also preseason camp, but it's also got to have an element to it where, again, we cured our own ills early, and then we make sure that we keep this light, we get them fresh and get them back to, playing really good football in a, again, not worn down manner. This is week whatever it is of the season that could naturally happen. So it was important that on the front end of that week we did it responsibly, and then the previous weekend and the front end of this week we did it responsibly. But now we started to put our foot on the gas over these past 2 days before we let up a little bit, and then we get on that plane on Saturday. So I love the way they handled it. I thought it was a good, a good combination of a lot of different places, not just one other team that we spoke to, but many different. And then the experience our coaches have had themselves, in that realm that made it our own. We made it our own to what we felt this current team needed.